Welcome to Sunshine Cathedral's Queer God Squad. It's Thursday, October 24th, 2024. I'm Reverend Dr. Darrell Watkins, the Senior Minister here at Sunshine Cathedral. With me today is Sunshine Cathedral's Executive Minister, he's also my husband, the Reverend Dr. Robert Griffin. Sunshine Cathedral's Minister of Connections, Reverend Dr. Ann Atwell, and Sunshine Cathedral's Minister of Education, Reverend Kevin Tisdall. Visit sunshinecathedral.org to learn more about our progressive faith community and how you can be a part of it no matter where you live in the world. And if you live in South Florida, be sure to check out the Sunshine Cathedral Center for the Performing Arts, offering entertainment for the LGBTQ+ community to benefit the LGBTQ+ community. If you enjoyed the Queer God Squad, please share this or other episodes with your friends, family, and social media communities. At Sunshine Cathedral, we want you to know that you are God's miracle, not God's mistake. This is the Sunshine Cathedral Perspective. What do the spiritual leaders of Sunshine Cathedral really believe? People often suspect clergy of saying things they don't really mean or don't really feel in order to placate the congregation or appease the bishop or the board. But Sunshine Cathedral is very proud to be able to say that we offer what is true for us. And you may not agree with us on every point, which is fine. And we may change our minds over time, which is fine. The search for meaning and truth is more important than the possible answers we find along the way. So today, let's see what these collar-wearing seminary grads really believe. Panel, giving the shortest answers possible. I'm talking 5, 10, 15 words, as if, but try. Answer the questions I ask, and we'll do it in rapid fire succession. I've got 16 in the queue. Let's see if we can get to at least half of them. We'll see.
Right.
But here we go. This is for the panel. Is God a person, a power, or a metaphor?
God's an idea.
Oh,
God is a thought that someone had, and it was often said that if there were no God in religion, someone would have to invent it.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Spong used to say if people were horses, or if horses had a god, their god would look like a horse.
Mm-hmm.
It is sort of a concept.
I think God is a power. I think it's an energy, a way of feeling and of being. I think that God is love, and that is power.
That is power.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Right? First power metaphor. Yep.
All right, very good. All right.
For me, God is omnipresent,
Mm-hmm.
and I think the thing that is omnipresent is life itself. It's energy. It's love.
Mm-hmm.
It's light, and so everything that is makes the one all, the one thing, whatever it is, and the thing is greater than the sum of its parts, and then the life that enlivens that's what we experience, and we're part of it. So I don't think we found a theist at the table, but I also think it would be a mistake to call us atheists.
Yes.
I'm agnostic about a lot of things. Things I doubt or don't understand, but I do believe in isness, and I choose to call that God. So that's where we are at the Sunshine Cathedral, and we said it. We're not holding back. We're going to tell you the truth. Must one be certain of a deity? Whether you define it this way or that way, theistically, non-theistically, polytheistically, or whatever, must one be certain of a deity to be on a spiritual path or part of a religious community?
No.
No.
My opinion, no.
No.
I think that there's a lot of joy and a lot of happiness in the search.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's kind of where I fall out on. It's the journey, it's the search, it's the questioning that is most powerful for me.
Yes.
Yeah, I think I know also because, I mean, there are too many paths just to find one set to one thing.
Right.
And, I've always used a well as an analogy. A circular well has many angle points to get to it. It's not just come this way or come that way. It's whatever journey you want to take. It's about the journey. It's about what you find along the journey. It's about what you understand on it. And then you're welcome to change all over again.
Exactly. A friend and mentor of mine, Reverend Dr. Claudio Carvelis, said when he was a teaching assistant at Union Theological Seminary, he said, God, whatever we say about God is mistaken.
Yeah.
Like whatever we say, it's not the full truth. It might not even be true at all, but it's certainly not the full truth. Whatever we say about God is a mistake. And I don't know, 10, 15 years before that, the Reverend Shelley Hamilton, who's a retired pastor now, it's funny how you remember a line from a sermon, but I've got so many of these, and this, I don't remember anything else about that sermon. But she said in that sermon, God is the search for God.
Yay.
Ooh.
Loving that so much.
Uh-huh.
So, so do you have to believe in God to be on a search? How could you possibly without the search? You know, it's about the search. So there's that. If God is everywhere and knows everything, why must we ask for help or direction? Doesn't God know what we need? And if so, why make us beg?
It's our internal process, I think, that we're going through to figure out ideas and thoughts. If we're praying, then we're speaking to ourselves. These are the things that I'm most interested in, and how can I get there? And if it means that I'm going through a deity, wonderful. But I don't know that we're actually expecting that God is going to give us an answer. I think that we are working our way through to a place that may be different than where we are right now.
The entire right wing of Christianity just took to their beds.
And I think that we ask for help. My opinion is that that's a reminder to us
Yes.
that there is this energy.
Yes.
There is this love that is there that can guide us or give us direction or whatever, or it's our internal consciousness that gives us that direction. I think asking for help is just like, okay, what can I do to help myself? And I don't think that we have to beg. I think that's something that we were taught.
Yeah, I think that gets in the way, actually.
Yeah.
You know, my thought on that, if God is all knowing, God is all of this, my shortest personal best prayer is, God, you know. And whichever God needs to hear that, hears it.
There you go.
Right?
I like that.
Yeah. my friend Shauna, of blessed memory, used to say, she was an atheist and a scientist, but she would say, you are your own best God. And I think that winds up being true, because the God of your understanding is basically the God of your creation.
Yes.
And so whether you think of it as you or in you or outside somewhere, it was still all this that came to that conclusion. And so just sort of own it. Since I think of God as everything and the life of everything, the all in all. So if God is the power, if God is the energy, and we are the conduits through which that energy flows, what God does for us, God does through us, then I think of prayer as sort of the faucet, or the switch that turns the light on, or the faucet that gets the water flowing, that it's just our way of tapping into it and seeing what happens. I don't know that we are in charge of much or that we can control much, but we can influence, and we can find peace, and we can summon hope, and that's where I find all that in prayer. But prayer is more of an isness, more of a sitting with, more of a just being present to me. Sometimes my most fulfilling prayers are just sitting in silence, not a word involved, just experiencing that moment, and then I just feel great. Is the Bible the Word of God?
I think the Bible is a word, but not the word.
I think the Bible is people's experiences of God, the sacred.
That was always the idea, I thought, that people were writing down their thoughts about how they see their God. So, Word of God, what'd you say? A word.
It's
A word.
Yeah.
Definitely not words of God.
Hey,
No.
Definitely not dictation by God.
No.
This is a human written, human edited, human compiled, human translated, human taught, human interpreted, and we don't have any of the originals on hand. We can't. So no, it's completely human. But so is Shakespeare.
Yeah.
And so is Tennessee Williams. And so is Brahms. And so is Picasso. And these things bring us to the better experiences of ourselves, to the better parts of ourselves. So they are sacred. They're divine. So it's literature. Literature is great. But the minute we think it's instructions, from Mars or whatever, I think we messed it up.
Well, and with the books you just mentioned, that phrase always kills me. It is the divinely inspired word of God. Did God only divinely inspire one book that we have that's been written? You know?
Oh no, because I've written a few, and I've written a few, and I think they're pretty inspirational.
Yeah.
That one book has been interpreted in so many different ways.
Yeah.
When somebody says it says so in the Bible, I always ask,
I don't care.
which one?
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. There's not even just one Christian Bible.
No.
I bet people, most people don't even know about the Ethiopian Orthodox Bible.
Oh, and I'm
is
just
vast.
getting into that one now.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Well, if the Bible is not the Word of God, then why read it?
It's good literature.
is.
It's something that is interesting. It gives you an idea of where people were when it was written, because you were doing that thing this past Sunday, a couple of Sundays ago, on some of the laws in the Jewish Bible. They were written for people then to help them not kill themselves. Don't eat meat on the third day because it might be a little rotten. Don't eat shellfish because you're in the middle of a desert. So you read it to understand people from the past better and to get an idea of where you might want to go in the future.
Right. I read it for inspiration too. There's a lot of books that I will pick up. It's like, oh, I really liked this book. The Bible's among them. Yeah. It's like, I know this part's really, really good. It helps.
Yeah. I read it to critique it. For real.
Well, you are a theologian.
W.C. Fields said he used to read the Bible looking for loopholes.
Yeah, and in seminary, we read it as a companion to whatever we were studying. It was not the primary source that we went to. It was like, okay, if you need to go to the Bible, and there's other stuff out there.
Exactly.
And that surprised me initially.
Can you name something in the Bible that is scientifically, historically, or morally wrong?
The Bible.
Slavery.
First one that jumped into my mind was creation story. Stories.
Stories. Yeah.
Yep.
And slavery, someone said?
Slavery.
Yeah.
Slavery.
The water to wine story gets me.
That's kind of good though.
It's like I was telling just some folks just had son about they was doing something on Jonah, and of course I said, it's a metaphorical story, right? And oh my gosh, I just
it's hard for me to call something wrong if I know it's a myth or a metaphor or a poem or an allegory, because it's doing what it's supposed to do.
Right.
Yeah.
And like the Exodus, Genesis, Leviticus, all of that, supposedly written by Moses, the best scholars working today are almost sure there was no Moses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so all of this, the Exodus itself, there's no historical evidence of a whole community of people leaving and a whole army chasing them and being drowned. No, outside of the story itself, there's no evidence. There's not even oral traditions. There's not even stories, poems of these heroic. And so it can't be, if we need it to be historically or scientifically factual, then save your time. Don't look to it again. But if it is to see what people thought, what people imagined, Jonah, nobody lived in a fish for 3 days. Get over yourself. Of course they didn't. But that story in its context is actually a confrontation of ethnocentrism and prejudice.
Yes.
And so when you see just like when you're watching movies now and people say, oh, that really means this, fatal attraction. And I remember people saying that the Glenn Close character was really AIDS or whatever. Well, we've always done that. We've always what is this? Is there another meaning to this? That's where the Bible is meaningful. If it has to be factual, though, you're in trouble. You're just in so much trouble. Where do we go when we die?
I have no idea.
I'm about to say easiest one for me. I couldn't tell you.
Yeah.
Bodies are energy.
Right.
We are energy. And so I believe we're energy. Energy doesn't die. It just changes form.
Right. I assume there's something else.
There's something. I don't know exactly what it is, but I think that we are energy. We change form somehow.
I don't remember if there was a life before this one.
No.
I don't know if there's one after. I just don't. I don't know. I assume that there's something, and I assume it's good. But that's where we live by faith, not by sight. I don't have to know.
Yeah, exactly.
I assume there's something. I assume it's good, and I assume that if it's not, that this life is enough. So I just assume that there is something, and if it's not, it's okay.
Yep.
And I just want to be like the bird cage. Fairy dust, fairy dust, fairy dust.
Yeah. Chances are pretty good. What does the sacrament of Holy Communion mean to you?
I didn't grow up sacramental. So communion to me was it was a once a year type thing. Over time, it has come to mean something more meaningful to me, but probably not the same thing it means for everybody else. I think it's a personal, individual thing for it means for me, what it needs to be for me, not for you.
It's a memorial feast, supposedly.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can, then there's more mystery you can add to that. But I am now, at this stage in my life and career, I'm starting to doubt the memorial feast bit. The first time it is written, the oldest document we have of this story is in 1 Corinthians by Paul, who wasn't there.
Wasn't around.
And then Mark, 20 years later, writes about it and so on. I think a lot of what we read in the Gospels are, Paul's letters have been circulating for a couple of decades, and them trying to reclaim the narrative and take control of it. So I think a lot of Christianity is actually Paulianity. And when you see Paul in the Gospels, well, Paul was writing first. So who borrowed from whom? So I think, obviously if it was Passover, they had a Passover meal.
Right.
Obviously, these stories about Jesus do help us remember him. But did that happen exactly that way? Did he anticipate, let's all get together, and that's why we're here, please remembering? Maybe, maybe not. But I think a lot of the traditions about it were contrived. And certainly all of the layers on top of that the magical things are happening. And at one time I did, but not now.
I grew up in an African-American Baptist church. We had communion once a month, and it was a separate service from the Sunday service. So that meant that we went to church in the morning, went to Grandma Edith's for dinner, went back to church for communion. So what it meant for me, and what it still means for me in a lot of ways, is community coming together to share a story, to share a sacred story. But it for me, more than anything else, it was us coming together.
The shared ritual is the thing for me, that it's a shared thing. We could pass out bubble gum, but we're doing it together.
Yes,
Right.
exactly.
And for me, it is also a common meal, a community meal, but I look at it a little bit differently. It is placed in the church after the sermon, after that kind of thing, and we're preparing to go out and to be Jesus Christ in the world. We're getting energy together. We're coming together. We're getting this energy, this common meal, and then we go out into the world.
Okay, we're going to take these next ones one at a time.
All right.
Anne, what does baptism mean for you?
It's becoming a part of the community. That's it.
Anybody can make that better?
That's pretty good.
That's pretty good. Robert, why does the church ask for money?
Damn.
Well, I can answer that one. So it'll have some.
So one of my favorite lines is, we don't ask people to give money to the church because they're there. We ask you to give money to the church so we can continue to be there, to do the ministry that we're called to.
That's your line. You say that all the time.
Yep. That's what it's about for me.
Yeah, and everyone asks for money.
Yeah.
I mean, the cable company asks you for money for their service, and maybe you cross a little bit, but you pay it.
But we don't send a bill.
Right, and that's it. We don't charge for membership. We don't charge for holy days. We don't charge admission, and so for us to, and yet everything we do costs something. So the only way we can have it is if people give.
By asking.
But people might not think to give unless you ask them and remind them. NPR would love to ask once and never again, but they have to ask all the time,
Right.
So they can bring us the programming that we love. So it's the same thing. And being generous, sharing is a spiritual thing. So when you give something to something you believe in, you feel more connected to it, more invested in it. It feels good to know that you're part of something good happening. If you give to your alma mater, if you give to NPR, it just feels good. It feels good to know that I'm part of making this happen.
Right.
There you go.
Anne, is being queer morally or spiritually wrong?
No.
Kevin.
Absolutely not. There was a star who was talking about her child who came out as queer, and she said, "That's nature.
Yeah.
This is nature. My child is doing what nature wants my child to do. So heck no."
I would say it's not only not wrong, it's a gift.
Absolutely.
So Reverend Ann, is abortion a sin?
No, it is not.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, sometimes that's a choice that people have to make.
Yeah.
Sometimes there are women, they just have no choice in the matter. They have to do what works best for them, to take care of themselves, to take care of the fetus, the unborn child. They have to do what they have to do to take care of themselves.
So it's certainly not wrong. There are times that it's actually the moral thing to do.
It absolutely is. It absolutely is.
Robert, who is Jesus to you, and why does he matter to you? It was your turn.
Wow. You know my normal statement to that. But anyway, I think Jesus is a very important...
God's a racist. Jesus is dead. All I've got left is the Spirit. He said that every day in seminary.
So there you have it.
He also, about the processional, you bring the cross in, he says whenever he sees white people in white robes carrying a cross, he gets nervous. So, oh yeah, he was a riot in seminary.
My question, but his answer, my answer. But I think that's a big part of it. Jesus is whoever you need Jesus to be in your life. Whether it's historical Jesus, whether it's my personal Lord and Savior Jesus. But for me, Jesus is that, story about a person that lived in history, more than one Jesus, did a wonderful lot of things, and yet I don't know at this, but Jesus made a bigger difference in my life when I was younger than he does now.
All right.
Anybody can prove on that?
No.
You've got your own thing with him, right?
Always.
Right.
Yeah.
It was a big breakthrough for me because I couldn't for a long time, when I could say Jesus is Lord. And it's funny that the more liberal, the more iconoclastic, the more free I got is when I could do that. Because to call Jesus Lord is seditious. It is subversive. In the empire, in the Roman Empire, to call someone Lord who's not part of the system, who's over against the system, who opposes the system, and to say this illiterate peasant who's basically giving the empire the finger, that's my Lord. Oh my goodness. That is so politically charged and so liberative so that's what he is for me. He's a symbol of liberation. I think a lot of what we think we know about him is mythologized.
Yeah.
I think a lot of what we think and know about him it did not happen, and yet there was something about his life that people thought was worthy of mythologizing. And so he does represent for me liberation, and then of course we'll get to that I think later on, but that he is for me a liberative figure calling me to work for liberation.
He's a hellion.
Yes,
He's an ass kicker.
Well, so do we benefit from his crucifixion? I'm going to go on the record and say no.
Yeah,
I don't see how
It's cruel.
murder
It's cruel. It's
ever
torture. It's
be
torture. They
beneficial.
tortured him.
Yes.
Tortured him to
nothing
death.
good. There was nothing good in it. There was nothing good came from it. But as we can do as people of faith, we have taken the story and used it maybe in some empowering ways. And that's what the resurrection is.
Yes.
For me, the resurrection is real, even though I don't think it happened. But it's real because it does happen. Terrible things happen, and that's not the end of the story. Terrible things happen, and we get our footing again. We get knocked down, but somehow we get back up. We help each other up. That's the resurrection story for me, even though the day after, 2 days after, 3 days after, a week after, a month after, Jesus was still dead, obviously, his physical, but his influence never died, and his significance never died, and we're taking that up. We're how he lives. We are Christ in the world.
I think that's the Sunshine Cathedral message to the world, that resurrection is possible for all of us. So many people come into our church who are broken, who are hurt, who don't believe in themselves anymore. And at Sunshine Cathedral, we're able to tell them that this is you at the moment, but this is not where you're going to be in the future.
Right.
You will be resurrected in a way that you just don't know yet.
Yeah.
Right.
That for me is the power of resurrection.
Right. There's a Buddhist thing that I have a new life every morning that I wake up.
Right.
And I think so much of these questions are also based on experience. What I thought about them as a kid and as a young adult and now as an adult and now where I'm now, my experience on all this has changed.
Oh yeah.
So
yeah,
it's all,
absolutely.
all this is based on experimental life, and how you engage it is what it means to you.
Right. And we graduated years and years ago. We've been people of faith for decades and decades and decades. We've been ordained and in ministry forever, blah, blah, blah. And I'm still fine-tuning my perspective.
Yep.
Yes.
I would have told you a year ago that the upper room Lord's Supper happened. And just 1 year, and I've been there and felt something powerful for being there. But that gave me more of an insight into Pentecost, I think. But just a year ago. And now I'm saying, I don't know. I don't know if it happened. It's plausible that it could or could not have happened. But I don't know. So I'm always tweaking. I'm always fine tuning. So if you're locked in, I just don't think that's the place you want to be.
No.
Right. Right.
You want to at least consider other options.
Yeah.
And what you do with them, let's see. Okay, one last one. Imagine there's no God. Just imagine. We've already talked about our various experiences of what we call God, but imagine there's no God. And imagine that prayer is at its best a placebo. Although placebos can be pretty powerful, but still, there's not much to it. There's no afterlife. And the Bible on balance has caused more harm than good. These are not declarations of fact or belief. This is imagine. Imagine there's no heaven. We're imagining. Imagine that you could be convinced that those statements were true. What if you did believe those very things? Would you remain on your spiritual journey? Would you remain on this faith journey? Would you still ask these questions, read this literature, go through these rituals? Would you still?
I would like to think that I would, because I still think that there's, a lot of joy in the search.
Yes.
We may not find the answers. We may not find the answers we're looking for. That's kind of the kicker right there. But I like to think that I would.
Well, I found God on a journey.
Exactly.
If I found that there was no God on a journey, well, keep going. What you can find next?
Exactly. What else is there?
My very first sermon, way back in the summer of 1997, the very first line from that sermon was, "You and I are on a journey." And I'm still on that journey, and I don't think that it matters what I find today, because it's a continuing motion, and the person that was standing next to me in 1997 may not be standing next to me anymore. There's somebody else there with me, so I constantly move forward and learn from whatever guru I'm with at that moment.
Yeah.
So definitely a journey.
Even if I didn't believe in God, I would still believe in you. I still believe in all of you, and we could still come together and work and do amazing things in the world.
Right.
There is a rabbinical story of Grandpa, why do you go to synagogue? And he says, well, my friend Shlomo goes to talk to God. I go to talk to Shlomo.
Yep.
And so I think I would, no matter what. And my mind has changed so many times.
Yeah.
It's going to change some more.
Yeah.
And it's been in this context. I wouldn't leave this. This is a fun ride. I'm not getting off this ride.
Always evolving.
I probably certainly would. If I didn't believe in any of that, I think I have the power and the confidence to believe in myself, to believe that there is something that's greater than I am. And that's a part of the search for the journey for me. So the belief in self.
All right.
All right. Well, this was a longer one than usual, but I think worth it. I hope it gave you some insight into who we are and what we're trying to do in the world, and maybe even gave you some room to ask your own questions and go a little deeper on your own journey. So that's today with the Queer God Squad. We want to thank you for joining us. We're here daily at 3 p.m. to have some fun and to discuss what our LGBTQ+ community is talking about.
Sunshine Cathedral is the world's largest progressive queer church. Progressive, queer, and God are words that naturally should go together.
We all are in this together. Remember that you are God's miracle, not God's mistake.
Until next time, we are the Queer God Squad. Goodbye.